What is going on, my friends? It is now June, which means that NBA 2K25 has been out for like 10 months. So this whole week, we're going to be really just talking about 2K25 and what this game turned out to be. Today, Monday, we're going to start out with talking about the 5 best builds in the game. Builds that were really good in 2s, builds that were really good in Pro-Am, Rec. Any game mode that you have played this year, I guarantee you one of these 5 builds, well, we'll see how many builds we get to, but one of these builds I'm going to show you today dominated that specific game mode. 2s, 3s, 5s, Rec, Pro-Am, Proving Grounds. One of these builds dominated in those areas. So if you like what we're doing over here, leave a like and comment below what you think the best builds are in NBA 2K25. Did I get this list right? Is there a build that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. We're also on the road to 3,000 subs. We're very close to it, so go ahead and hit that sub button. You guys have always been showing a lot of love and support since we started this thing last year, so thank you very much for that. Enough with the yapping, let's get right into it. The 2s build, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory how this is going to go, but the high dexing builds with a 99 midi, 5 cap breakers here, 3 cap breakers here, bringing your total to 8, 99, 99, and then the rest going on your speed. 5 here, 13 total cap breakers, 99 speed, 2 more here. That's going to bring the total to 99 agility. This was the best guard build in the 2v2 setting this year, whether it was in, theater 2s, park 2s, competitive stage 2s. This build really took over. We've really never seen a build like this in the history of 2K, and I really hope that this build doesn't make a return in NBA 2K26, because if you have anything below literally a 95 speed, which is a ton of speed to dedicate to your build, you were at a disadvantage. This guy isn't made to dribble, even though that it does have a 79 speed with ball, 74 ball handle. If you're glitchy at all, you can definitely manage to dribble, but for the most part, you're dexing and L2ing with this build. I'll show you the center build that was the partner in crime to this one. But let's all agree that this build needs to stay in 2K25. I much rather play a glitchy PNR offense in the 2s court than run in circles for 24 seconds of a shot clock. And the second that I make a bad reach or a bad play on the ball, or on the pass, I guess, it just leads to a wide open shot. So this build, it's safe to say that I do think that this build was the best build in 2K. When you think about this was made for the 2s, and in 2s, this build was just so much better than anything else. And it was also pretty good at 3s if you decided to be glitchy. The next thing that we'll talk about, the partner in crime to the dexing god. You would put 5 cap breakers on your strength for 99 and 5 cap breakers on your rebounds for 99. So you'd have 99 O board, D board, strength, and then a 98 pass, which gives you access to that dimer on legend. This is the reason why the dexing build was so good this year. No finishing needed on this build, because your job is literally pass the ball, L2, so you have a little bit of unpluckable, so you don't get those cheesy rips that some people will probably be getting. And you're just passing, and if he misses, you're boarding. 99 strength, you're an absolute horse on the glass. You're really not making the most of the brick wall. You definitely can, but the stronger the better. The more vertical the better on a 7-foot 7'8" wingspan center build. And then obviously the rebounding, I mean, you're gonna get glitchy rebounds with 99 O board and D board. I made a build very similar to this, but instead of putting my cap breakers on D board or O board to get both of them to 99, I used 5 of my cap breakers to get to 98. And my finishing was a lot better. But if I had to remake that build, I would definitely make it this way. Safe to say that this was the best big 2s build this year in NBA 2K25, especially considering that dexing and L2ing was so good. You really can't run any other build with that dexing build other than this one. I think you could definitely try, but I mean, this build is insane, all things considered right there. So for 2s and 3s, that was pretty much the 2 builds that took over there. I played a lot of Pro-Am. If you're new to the channel, I've played against 2K pros. I've beaten some 2K pros, competed in decent sized tournaments with some pros in it, but For the most part, the most glitchy point guard build that I came across was the 99 midi 99-3 point guard build with the ability to dunk, with the ability to dribble and play make. You're sitting in the corner on defense, so you really don't need anything. You look up your favorite Pro-Am point guards on YouTube, and most likely, if they're not running a 5-out, which I don't think was as good this year, they were running this build. 5 cap breakers on 3 and midi to get to that 99 in each of those categories, and then just putting 5 more on your ball handle for the Steve Francis. You didn't need unpluckable any higher than gold. You didn't need any of these badges higher than Hall of Fame. If you wanted to, you could badge +1 handles for days and it would be legend. So this build was crazy. Some people thought that the 5.9s would take over this year. It was just too short. 6'2 was cool, but compared to the 6'4, you know, the 6'4 is far better than the 6'2 in my opinion. I used a 6'2 point guard in Pro-Am pretty much the entirety of 2K. I never really got a chance to try out the 6'4. You know, I can only put so much money into a game before I realize, hey, I got a bit of a problem. Maybe we should stop buying builds and we should maybe, you know what I'm saying, try our best to save some money. But if I had the opportunity to and I could do it all over again, I would make this build from the jump, and I wouldn't have another build the rest of the year. I definitely regret not having this build. It reminds me a lot of the 6'6 I had last year when I was running in tournaments and everything. I had a 6'6 point guard build with 98 midi and 94 3. It was a little different than what some people were using back then, so it was a lot of fun. But this year, they definitely nerfed dunking and 5-out. Last year, 5-out was broken. My best point guard last year was definitely the dunking build that was unbelievable. But this year, 99 midi and 99 3 was unbelievable. The next thing we'll talk about is kind of the tall shooting guard builds. When it came to Pro-Am, most people that were running a tall guard build, if they weren't running a 6'4, were running a 6'6 build with 99 midi. The taller that you were this year, the better. Obviously at point guard, you pretty much had to be 6'4. That was the best point guard build. But in my opinion, if you weren't being a 6'4 shooting guard, you were being this kind of build. A build where you had 5 here, 5 cap breakers here for 99 midi. You could definitely do 5 cap breakers here for 93 3. So at 6'6, you're going to have limitless on gold. And then also having 95 speed. The job of a shooting guard in Pro-Am would definitely be to kind of just be a bucket getter. And for a lot of these teams that were running a 6'4 shooting guard, they really couldn't guard a 6'6 shooting guard. I've posted gameplay of us and my team using a 6'8 shooting guard, which was pretty good, but the overall stats that you have at 6'6 are just way better. And I'm trying to show you guys the best builds this year. So definitely the 6'8 is pretty good, but the 6'6 I think was far better. With the ability to get an 86 speed with ball, you could have this lightning launch on Hall of Fame with a badge +1, 95 speed on a 6'6, so leaking out on the breaks and just being able to keep up with the 6'4s. I mean, this was a really, really good build, especially considering that you could use a cap breaker here to get to the 92 perimeter with Challenger on gold, on ball menace on gold, and pick dodger on gold. Could put one of these badges at a badge +1, and you could have on ball menace, Hall of Fame on a 6'6 with 99 midi and 86 speed with ball. I think that this was by far and away the best shooting guard build in 2K25 this year, and especially with it being June, we know this is the best build because we've been playing the game for 10 months. So safe to say that this was by far and away the best shooting guard build in 2K25. After that, you start coming across your lock builds. 6'4 locks, honestly, in my opinion, was the best way to go. I have a 6'6 lock that I'll show you here in a second. But the 6'4s, man, a 6'4 lock with the ability to get 97 speed, 97 agility if you want, it's pretty crazy. That's a very, very fast build. A movable enforcer wasn't nearly as good this year as last year. Last year it was probably one of, if not the best defensive badge last year. But you could badge +1 this and still have it on silver, which is definitely plenty. 97 speed with a 99 perimeter and steel. So to be exact, 10 total cap breakers right here, 99, 99. So glove, legendary. Interceptor, legendary. Challenger, legendary. On-ball menace, legendary. Pick dodger, legendary. Immovable enforcer, silver. Off-ball pest, legendary. I mean, this was broken. And then you got 5 more cap breakers. You can put 2 here for 97 speed and 2 here for 97 agility. Definitely disgusting build. To me, I was more fearful of this build than anything. I wasn't very good with a 6-6 lock, so I would definitely want to use a 6-4 lock if I had to switch things up. And the best locks that I come across were definitely 6-4. It really just comes down to user and preference. If you wanted to be taller, and you were okay with like the stiffness that a 6-6 brought you, then you could go 6-6. But to me, the 6-4 lock was definitely the best lock in 2K25, in my opinion. Like I said, if you weren't going with a 6-4 lock, which is definitely what I would have been doing, you could go with the 6-6 lock, which is still very, very good. A lot easier to shoot, probably, just because you're taller. 6-4, you could get patty, but you know, still with the same ability to get the limitless on bronze, to get the set shot specialist on gold. Could badge +1 that if you wanted to Hall of Fame, making you a very good two-way player off the ball. But still getting that 99 at 6-6. Bumpier animations for sure compared to a 6-4, but the 6-4 was just quicker, in my opinion, and easier to use and go left to right. You still had access to the 94 speed, 92 agility, really fast at 6-6, especially considering like you have 99 perimeter and steel. 6-6, how much faster can you be? Well, you can still be 94 speed, so really good. You still have access to every single badge on legend. So the 6-6 was another option that you had at lock. I've bumped into a lot of people that were using a 6-7 lock, and it just wasn't nearly as good as a 6-6. So if you had to make a good lock build, I think the 6-4 is better, like I said, but the 2 best locks were 6-4 and 6-6. So it was just down to preference at that point for NBA 2K25 locks this year. The last kind of type of build that we're going to talk about is like the 6'6 to 6'9, just freak fast athletes. I think the 6'6 was the best one. You could call this a back end build, but the ability to finish, the ability to shoot a little bit and get limitless on bronze at least, so you can shoot from really far back, and then just loading up on defense and physicals. 92 speed with 83 agility at 6'6, 265 pounds. Max wingspan is definitely insane. Getting your immovable enforcer on gold and still getting the ability to have a 90 vertical. I've posted a lot of content over this build recently, and you can definitely notice these high vertical builds making a difference on rebounds. I can compete with a 7-footer on this build, if that is even close to believable. 92 rebound, 99 steal, 88 interior, and 85 perimeter. These 6'6 to 6'9 builds can guard a 1 through 5. I think 6'6 to 6'7 were the best 2 heights for these kinds of builds, just because you're quicker and have access to more attribute points. But to be fair, I mean, that whole height range from 6'6 to 6'9 can be usable in 2s. In the back end position in ProAm, or the power forward position in ProAm, I definitely would stay 6'6 in my opinion. Definitely nothing wrong with 6'7 if you are very good at moving around with less speed and agility. But for someone like me, not very good at moving around and could use all the help that I can get when it comes to just better animations, the 6'6 height was definitely the best to be in power, or in ProAm for power forwards. Very fast, very athletic, a ton of steal, 99 steal, and still having the ability to get 92 rebound, 92 speed, high agility, 90 vertical, shooting, dunking, good enough passing. Like, this build was really good in NBA 2K25. But that pretty much does it for this video. Like I said, NBA 2K25 is coming to a close pretty much. I'm still gonna get my gameplay videos out for you guys, but when it comes to new builds, like, it's June. I don't really think I should be spending more money on builds, but this was an opportunity for us to reflect on what the best builds were in NBA 2K25. those were the best builds in 2K25, no matter the game mode that you're trying to play in. Those were the best ones. Sure, you could argue some builds were better than others, but for the most part, I really think I hit the nail on the head with these builds. So let me know if I missed one, though. I definitely can understand maybe different opinions, but for the most part, I think we got it right today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. A lot of different videos coming out this week to reflect on NBA 2K25. The best parts about the game, the worst parts about the game. We're definitely going to hit all those different things this week to reflect on the game. Getting excited for 2K26, to be honest with you. This game needs to step to the side. So sub up if you're new. Leave a like if you enjoy this content. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. Peace.